All right, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Thomas and I do educational videos. Today we're doing the 109th video on the reciprocal system of theory, which is a theory of everything that was originated by Dewey B. Larson back in the 20th century and has been expounded upon by people like Dr. Bruce Perret and Dr. KVK Nehru, Dr. Gopi Krishna, and others in the 21st century. Larson died back in 1990. We're looking at his final book that came out after he died in 1995 called Beyond Space and Time. This is his effort to go into metaphysics, religion, philosophy, and psychology. All his earlier books were on the hard sciences, chemistry and physics, astronomy. The basic idea behind the reciprocal system is that it is a theory of everything. If you can learn the theory, you can plug it into any subject that you'd like. Once you kind of become fluent with the system, then you can try to plug it in to whatever you want. So it really liberates the average person from the priesthood of the scientists and the priesthood of the priests, both, and enables us to really figure things out for ourselves in ways that make sense. The basic idea is that we live in a universe of motion, not a universe of matter, not a universe of energy, but a universe of motion. In fact, matter and energy are both simply just kinds of motion. And motion is the relationship between space and time. And so all kinds of scientific phenomena can be described exclusively in terms of a relationship between space and time. For example, speed. Speed is space over time. 10 miles per hour. 10 miles of space in 1 hour of time. That's the most simple and basic relationship that we know, but all other scientific phenomena also are relationships between time and space. Now you have to remember that time and space both are multidimensional because space and time are reciprocals of each other. So they have the same qualities in the same way that 2/3 and 3/2 have the same qualities of 2 and 3, but they're just inverted. In the same way that what we know about space also adheres to time and vice versa. So we do observe that space is multidimensional, what you call coordinate space, 3 dimensions or more. And therefore time also has its coordinate aspect, 3 or more dimensions of time. Now, what we know about time is that it is always progressing. It's always getting later and later and later. This is what Larson refers to as clock time. And by the reciprocal postulate, it also means that space has the qualities of always getting farther and farther, of flowing, progressing, always getting farther and farther apart. And Larson calls that clock space. And that was observed by the Hubble telescope way back in the 1920s, the recession of the distant galaxies. All of the galaxies are moving away from each other. That is the progression of space. Okay, we also know that space and time, or I won't say we know, these are Larson's postulates. So this is what you have to accept in order to accept the reciprocal system. And space and time are come only in discrete units. There's no continuousness of space and time. They are quantized. They come in little chunks. You either have 1 or you don't have any. And then you have 2, and then you have 3, and then you have 4. You don't have 3.3 or 2.6 or anything like that. You either have 1 or none. and that's the discrete unit postulate within the reciprocal system. Now, when you take that discrete unit postulate and you say 1 unit of space in 1 unit of time is the speed of light. So the speed of light is this fundamental value. And not only that, it is the null value or the origin or it's what's there when there's nothing there. When you have nothing, what we would call nothing, what you really have is you have the speed of light in all directions. That's what Larson calls a scalar motion. A scalar motion is a motion that has a magnitude but has no direction. And the speed of light is the midpoint or the null point of the universe, meaning that there is an entire half of the universe that's moving faster than the speed of light. Larson calls that the cosmic sector or sector 2. That is that's something that's unknown in the Einsteinian world, where Einstein would say that the speed of light is the maximum speed of the universe. That's only true if you only consider the material sector or sector 1, the sector we're familiar with that's moving slower than the speed of light. So this sector 1 is grows by aggregation, by bonding with each other. Atoms bond with other atoms to molecules to get to its most complex level, which is the DNA molecule containing billions of atoms. At that point, the DNA molecule becomes eligible to be taken control over by a sector 2 entity. When sector 2 and sector 1 combine like that in the right configuration, in the right proportion, we get what Larson calls the life unit. Life is a merger of material and cosmic entities. And then the life unit starts out as a single-celled organism. And that evolves and develops up until its most complex level, which Larson says is the intelligent human being. At this point, the intelligent human being becomes eligible to be taken control of again, but this time by a sector 3 entity. For Larson, sector 3 is that region that is beyond space and time, independent of space and time, and I would dare say it has to do with this origin, this boundary between the material and cosmic sectors. Other people would have called that sector 3 God or gods or goddesses or religions or the numinous, the spiritual world, or such like. Now, the sector 3 communicates with us. Sector 3 is always good, and it is always right. Our ability to receive the communication from sector 3 is limited by our ability, because we are the equivalent of our spiritual single-celled organisms, more or less. We just recently, evolutionarily speaking, got to the point where we are able to receive messages from sector 3, but we are not really yet adept at decoding those messages. The messages are always right. Our ability to interpret them is very limited, especially depending on the complexity of the message. If it's just a simple intuition, then perhaps we can decode that. But if it's a religious revelation or a scientific insight, it might be more difficult. Okay, so now we're in chapter 26 of this book, Beyond Space and Time, and Larson is really talking about here religion and philosophy, and how religion has a core that is reflective of sector 3, but that it has so much extraneous, ritualistic, and his archaic material connected to it what he calls non-religious items, that it is in danger of kind of losing its identity. And he's pointing at like the social gospel as being, you know, uh, all the outreach that churches make, that he's saying really get them to be distracted from their primary mission, which is to elevate human beings to the sector 3 level, or he calls it level 3. A level 3 is a human being under the influence of sector 3, under the total influence of sector 3. Um, and he's saying that the churches, when they embrace the social gospel, are actually secularizing themselves, and engaging in economic and social choices as opposed to moral choices, and which is really what the essence of sector 3 and religion and the uh, aims and goals of the entire universe are in Larson's world. Okay, so we're going to start here. Quoting one of these theologians, I certainly do not see hordes of people flocking to those churches which are attempting to be relevant. Membership growth in recent years has been confined almost entirely to those denominations that do not try to be relevant in the present day sense. One of the factors that mitigates against the success of the kind of a mixture that is involved in attempting to pursue both religious and secular objectives concurrently is that the secular task, whatever it may happen to be at the moment, is much the easier. A secular goal can usually be identified clearly and unequivocally, whereas the religious task is more general and hard to pin down specifically. The secular antagonists, people, are clearly visible, while the religious antagonists, in ignorance, inertia, superstition, selfishness, and so on, however real and however powerful they may be, are nevertheless intangible. The available means of furthering the secular objectives are easily recognized, and the progress or lack of progress that results from their use can be evaluated, at least approximately, as the work proceeds. On the other hand, there is always a question as to what methods are appropriate in any religious situation, and whether or not any progress has been or is being made toward the defined goals is often shrouded in uncertainty. It is not surprising, therefore, that where the option exists, the young and impatient, together with those that are merely impatient, are very likely to find themselves more at home with the secular activities. The religious aspect of their responsibility then recedes into the background. It should not be assumed, however, that separating the religious and the secular aspect of present-day religious doctrines and a renewed emphasis on strictly religious activities would require embracing the conception that man's aims and aspirations must be centered on otherworldly goals, to the exclusion of concern with life on earth. On the contrary, our findings show that there is no way in which an individual can prepare himself for a future existence, whatever form that existence may take, other than by fulfilling his purpose here on earth. There need not be any less progress toward improvement of the conditions of human living. One of the most effective means of ensuring that progress does take place is to increase the number of individuals who have both the knowledge and the desire to do that which is right and good. But this is only a collateral issue, and we should avoid confusing it with the primary objective. The essential function of religion is to supply each individual human being with the special knowledge that he needs in order to be able to so govern his life that he will fulfill the purpose for which he exists, and to provide the example, encouragement, and support that will induce these individuals to make full use of the information that is supplied. This is a colossal task, and it deserves the undivided attention of those persons and those organizations that are engaged with it. Since the demand for rationality in religion is the principal cause of the present crisis in the religious field, this crisis will inevitably deepen unless effective counteraction is taken, inasmuch as the continued rise in educational levels is bringing more and more individuals up to the point where they will no longer accept the word of authority without question. If religion cannot present a rational case, then humanism, which is rational if one accepts its premises, will continue to gain. In order to meet this challenge, the organized religions will not only have to make it clear that the goals of humanism, however commendable they may be, are secular, not religious, but will have to make some significant progress toward introducing reason into religion. What is now required is an overhauling of religious doctrines that will make them acceptable to the person who is no longer meekly submissive to authority and insists on doing his own thinking. Unfortunately, neither the established religions nor any philosophical agencies have made any perceptible progress in this direction thus far. Not even a good start has been made toward the essential task of separating the true from the false in existing doctrines and reconciling the divergent views of the many religions and sects. A prerequisite for any concerted effort toward higher levels of thought and action. It is true that much attention is currently being given to ecumenism and church mergers, or unions, as they are generally called, are very much in the forefront of institutional religious activity at the moment. However, these mergers are usually achieved not by reaching agreement on the points of doctrinal difference, but by agreeing not to pay any attention to these differences. This is effective from the standpoint of eliminating controversies that might block the mergers, but it contributes nothing toward distinguishing religious truth from religious error, or from the large amount of inherently non-religious matter with which the religious essentials are now associated. Indeed, the church's avoidance of discussion and controversy about genuinely religious issues plays a significant part in accelerating the current trend towards substituting secular for religious objectives. The peculiarly religious task is a difficult one, and in view of the lack of any clearly defined goal or any rational justification for the doctrines that they are called upon to support and defend, it is not surprising that many workers in the religious organizations have allowed discouragement and frustration to turn them towards secular objectives. But the findings of this work now provide the solid, factual, and rational base that religion has heretofore lacked. We have demonstrated by standard scientific methods that there is an existence independent of the physical universe, as the religions have contended, that there is communication between that existence and the human race, as the religions likewise assert, and that the ultimate goal of human existence is to so develop our ethical personalities that we will follow the governing rules of that outside sector rather than behaving as purely biological organisms. It's basically just saying Sector 3 over Sector 2. The religious task is to ascertain the details of the governing rules, to disseminate that information as widely as possible, to persuade individuals to pattern their lives in accordance with these rules, and to guide and assist them in their efforts toward that end. The particular language that is employed in carrying out this assignment, the imagery in which the essential truths are clothed, and the doctrinal assertions with which they are embroidered is immaterial, so long as it is rational and not inconsistent with the established facts. The important point is that the goal is now definitely defined, and although the road that leads to it is full of obstacles and impediments, it is nevertheless visible. Okay, that's the end of chapter 26, which was called the road ahead. Chapter 27 is called Survival. And when he calls it survival, what he's really talking about is survival of the human identity. What basically he's going into what's going to happen to you when you die. What happens after you die? Are you surviving, or are you just extinguished, or is there a heaven and a hell, or what? And so that's what he's going to get into in this chapter. I'm going to try to read the first paragraph here. One of man's greatest concerns ever since he emerged from his pre-human estate has been with the question as to whether his existence terminates with physical death or whether there is something that survives, either as an individual entity or as part of some larger whole. All of the world's major religions promise survival in one manner or another, but as pointed out earlier, it is necessary to view these assertions of the religious authorities with a considerable degree of skepticism, since it is quite conceivable that the strong human desire for survival may be the source of the religious convictions on this subject, rather than any actual revelation or insight, and that here again, as in so many other human conclusions, the wish is father to the thought. Recognition of this possibility has, in fact, resulted in growing doubts even among the members of the religious communities. And he quotes one who says, "There is no single article of traditional Christian faith less confidently affirmed today than this about immortality, and none so generally neglected or doubted." Okay, we'll take over from there tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.